Marc Andreessen discusses the woke nature of major AI systems, attributing it to the human element in their training. He explains that the reinforcement learning from human feedback process, crucial for AI development, relies on human trainers who often share similar biases to those found in social media's previous trust and safety teams. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle, where the AI reflects and amplifies existing societal biases, resulting in potentially monstrous machines. Andreessen argues that the lack of ideological competition within major AI labs mirrors that of other sectors like universities and media, creating a cartel-like environment. He advocates for a truly open AI universe with diverse systems to avoid the dangers of a single, shielded superintelligence. The reinforcement learning from human feedback training process inadvertently amplifies pre-existing biases of the human trainers, leading to woke AI outputs. Major AI companies lack ideological competition, mirroring the dynamics of other large institutions, thus reinforcing a particular viewpoint. Shielding AI from market and environmental feedback prevents necessary self-regulation and increases the risk of creating an unstable, unpredictable system. Andreessen urges for government non-intervention and a fully competitive AI market to allow for diverse viewpoints and prevent monolithic control. Elon Musk's disruption of Twitter's trust and safety policies and potential impact on AI development is highlighted as a crucial case study in this situation.
If the large language models' value is in their wisdom, and that wisdom is derived from their understanding of the deep pattern of correlations between ideas, which is like a major source of wisdom, genuinely speaking, why pervert that with an overlay of shallow ideology, and why is the ideology in the direction that it is, and then how is that gerrymandering conducted? Yes, let me start with the how. So the how is a technique. There's an acronym for it. It's called reinforcement learning by human feedback, and so in the field it's called RHF. And RLHF is basically a key step for making an AI that works and interacts with humans, which is you take a raw model, which is sort of feral and doesn't quite know how to orient to people, and then you put it in a training loop with some set of human beings who effectively socialize it, and so, right, reinforcement learning for the human feedback. The key there is human feedback. Right, you put it in dialogue with human beings, and you have the human beings do something very analogous to teaching a child, right? Here's how you respond, here's how you're polite, here's the things you can and can't say, here's how to word things, here's how to be, curious, all the behaviors that you presumably want to see from something you're interacting with. That is sort of human, sort of a human proxy kind of form of behavior. That is a 100% human enterprise. You have to decide what the rules are for the people who are going to be doing that work. They're all people. And then you have to hire into those jobs. The people going into those jobs are in many cases the same people. This will horrify you. They're the same people who were in the trusting safety groups at the social media companies 5 years ago. Oh, good. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, imagine a worse outcome than that, because they're all the people that, Elon cut out of the trust and safety group at Twitter when he bought it. Many of them have migrated into these trust and safety groups. Trust and safety groups at these AI companies, and they're now setting these policies and doing this training. So the terrifying thing here is that we're going to produce hyper-powerful avatars of our own flaws, right? And so if you're training one of these systems and you have a variety of domains of personal pathology, you're going to amplify that substantively. You're going to make these giants, like I joke with my friend Jonathan Passo, who's very reliable source in such matters, that we're going to see giants walk the earth again. I mean, that's already happening, and that's what these AI systems are. And if they're trained by people who, well, let's say, are full of unexamined biases and prejudices and deep resentments, which is something that you talk about in your manifesto, resentment and arrogance being like key sin, so to speak. We're going to produce monstrous machines that have exact those characteristics, and that is not going to be good. And that it's you're absolutely right to point to this as, perhaps the serious problem of our times. If we're going to generate augmented intelligence, we better not generate augmented pathological intelligence. And if we're not very careful, we are certainly going to do that. Not least because there's way more ways that a system can go wrong than there are ways that it can, aim upward in a indirection. And so, okay, so why is it these people who were this is so awful? I didn't know that were, say, part of the safety and trust issue at Twitter, who are now training the bloody AI. How did that horrible situation come to be? It's the same dynamic. It's the big AI companies have the exact same dynamic as the big social media companies, which have the exact same dynamic as the big universities, which have the exact same dynamic as the big media companies, which is right? You have these either formal or DO cartels. You have a small handful of companies at the commanding heights of society that hire all the smart graduates. Say, take a step back. You don't see ideological competition between Harvard and Yale, right? Like you would think that you should, because they should compete in the marketplace of ideas. And of course, in practice, you don't see that at all. You see no ideological, competition between the New York Times and the Washington Post. You see no ideological competition between the Ford Foundation and, any of the other major foundations. They all have the exact same politics. You see no, prior to Elon buying Twitter, you saw no ideological competition between the different social media companies, right? Today, you see no ideological competition among the big AI labs. Elon is the spoiler, right? He is coming into he's going to try to do in AI what he did in social media, which is create the non-woke one, but without Elon. You weren't seeing that at all. And so you have this consistent dynamic across these sectors of what appears to be a free market economy, where you end up with these cartels, where they sort of self-reinforce and self-police, and then they're policed by the government. Anyway, so I want to describe the general phenomenon because that's what's happening here. It's the same thing that happened with the social media companies, and then this gets into policy, on the very serious policy issues on the government side, which is the government going to grant these AI companies basically protected status as some form of monopoly or cartel in return for these companies signing up for the political control that their masters in government want, or in the alternative, is there actually going to be an open AI universe? A true open AI, like truly open, where you're going to have a multiplicity of AIs that are actually in full competition, right? Competing. And then you'll have some that are woke, and you'll have some that are non-woke, and you'll have some trained on new material, and some trained on old material, and so forth and so on. And then people can freely pick. And the thing that we're pushing for is that latter outcome. We very specifically want government to not protect these companies, to not put them behind a regulatory wall, to not be able to control them, in the way that the social media companies got controlled before Elon. We actually want like full competition, and if you want your woke AI, you can have it. But there are many other choices. Well, can you imagine developing a super intelligence that's shielded from evolutionary pressure? Like that is absolutely insane. That's absolutely insane. I mean, all we know that the only way that a complex system can regulate itself across time is through something like evolutionary competition. That's it. That's the mechanism. And so if you decide this AI is correct by fact, and then you shield it from any possibility of market feedback or environmental feedback, well, that is literally the definition of how to make something insane.